I'd like to describe CSR. I mean, it's quite difficult to define it because it could be many things to different people. One way I try to describe it is to say it's about self-regulation. And in terms of self-regulation, it means the ability of companies to make choices voluntarily to reduce their negative impacts and enhance their positive impacts. That's one way, in a nutshell, because if you look at all the debates around CSR and what companies can do, it's about either creating more positive impacts or reducing negative impacts. And this could range from social issues to environmental issues to ethical problems. So in terms of why it is important because if you look at regulation in general, so if you're looking at, say, regulation coming from the state or the government, it is always inadequate. It can't capture everything that business does. Therefore, there's need for firms to also self-regulate, to complement the existing governance coming from the state or the government. We can also think about the market as well as other social actors having impacts on business. So self-regulation is one way, it's part of the jigsaw if you put it that way. So how companies regulate themselves and be part of and parcel of the governance network. But do all companies engage in CSR? I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that every company engages in some sort of value creation. So if you define it that way, then yes, they engage, they create some positive impacts like jobs, they pay salaries, they pay taxes, they contribute to economic development. So these could be considered as positive impacts, and therefore you can say they're engaging in corporate social responsibility. But at the same time also, companies create negative impacts like pollution, like child labor, like tax avoidance, even tax evasion, like what we're currently seeing at the moment with the case of some companies. So there's always that mix, and some companies engage in it because it is a good to have. They see it as part of their CSR, marketing or PR, which could create some cynicism in terms of greenwashing, companies engaging in that. But there are also some companies who are genuinely committed to it. So it depends on the company involved and also their intention and motives. Yeah. CSR has a very long history, depending on how far you want to go. You can go back to the medieval times when you had businessmen who were also driven by the ethics of the medieval era, up to the contemporary time. But it became quite popular, say, in the late or late 19th century towards the early 20th century, where the whole question was around the role of business in society, who benefits from society, from entrepreneurs engaging in business activities, and to what extent can the benefits be shared. And so there was a whole question around how can businesses, so the history of CSR could be linked to the broader agenda around business and society relationship. And that business and society relationship then dovetails into some of the specifics. So back in the early 20th century in America, following the Great Depression, there were questions around, okay, but how can businesses be part of the solution? How did businesses create the problem in the first instance? And so the conversation continued to the say in the mid-1960s when people like Milton Friedman argued strongly that the business of business is business. There were also some earlier people who were saying, well, the business should do more than just focusing on money. Business should be purpose-driven. Businesses should also contribute to some kind of value to society. So it's moved a long way from there to what we call today, well, starting from corporate social responsibility. The first thing that will come to people's mind might be philanthropy. What companies do for either the community or the employees. Say, take the case of Cadbury, building the hostels or houses for the employees in Bonneville. So it could be treated as that. and also the idea behind, say, the Quakers movement in the UK or Europe, the religious undertone of CSR, and even if you go back during the time of the slavery and the issues with the child labor back in the days. So these are different challenges over time. So CSR has been tracking different societal challenges to the present day where we're talking about climate change. So CSR is also implicated in that debate around climate change. So, and if you think of CSR as a way of managing impacts, these impacts are also dynamic. So take, for example, the case of obesity today, or other issues relating to health, even smoking. So there was a time these were tolerated, but because the society has moved, how businesses are implicated in some of these societal challenges would then also require CSR to adapt. So in terms of adaptation, it will continue to, it's a very dynamic discipline, it's a very dynamic subject, which we need to reflect to the current themes. But another one thing that's quite interesting, that these themes vary from context to context. So what might be on the top of agenda, say in Europe, will be quite different from, say, North America, or even if you extend to some emerging markets. So I think it is more of context dependent and also bounded in time. That's how I would frame it. But it's come a long way, and it has also grown in scope. That today, I know there is a big debate about some people who come from the sustainability angle. We tend to have been informed strongly by either ecological studies, environmental studies, or natural sciences, and more of compared to the part coming from the social dimension. But to a large extent, I would still think that both the sustainability agenda and the CSR agenda have a lot in common, irrespective of their different philosophical underpinnings.